everybody. Welcome back to the Smrt live class. Happy Wednesday afternoon, or it's Wednesday afternoon where I am, 3 o'clock here in Vancouver. I'm Shaun, for anybody who's new to the stream. I'll be your teacher today. We have also, you've probably met already, you've got Lane is the moderator in the chat, so if you have questions while we're doing this thing today, please put your questions in the chat and we'll try to answer as many as we can. So yeah, let's jump right into it. Okay, let's get started here. Cause and effect is what we're talking about today. All right, let me make this nice and big for everybody to see it. Hopefully, there. All right. So, cause and effects. For anybody who's in Smrt already, as a student, we're going to be in 125, Unit 3. In writing 3.1 is where we're going to start today, okay? Today we're going to be talking about how to discuss cause and effect relationships mainly in written English, but also you can apply this to spoken English as well, okay? So actually forget about the technical stuff for now, okay? Forget about cause and effect. Let's talk about success, all right? Success. When you think about success, who do you think about? Who is an image of success? Different people have different ideas of what success is. For some of you, let's say Steve Jobs, right? Is the image of success. Yeah? Pretty hard to argue with that. We've got Oprah Winfrey. She's successful. Kim Kardashian. Some people would say she is successful in her own way. All right? So those three people, very famous, very successful, my question is, what makes them successful? How do people succeed in life? Or in other words, what makes people succeed? And you can even get that discussion going in the chat here. The question is, what makes people succeed? What leads to success in life? What are the qualities of successful people? And this is where we're going to start. So the reason I'm asking this question is, John thinks I'm a success? Well, yeah. Thank you, John. That warms my heart. All right. If you think I'm a success, then I agree. All right. So success. Why are we talking about success? Because today, as I said, we're going to be talking about cause and effect, right? And we'll come back to this idea of success. Today we're going to be talking about how to connect causal and effect relationships in written English. Okay, so where we're going to start is with what we call linking words. All right, a linking word is any kind of word or phrase that we use to connect the ideas from one sentence to another, or from one clause to another, or from one paragraph to another. And today we're going to be looking at the linking words that connect cause and effect, this kind of chain. Okay, so let's start with cause. Okay, when you think about cause, there are some common conjunctions that we use to express cause, to introduce the reason for something or the cause for something. Okay, now obviously the first one that probably pops into your head is because. All right, and that's a good one. I always want you to broaden your range and your vocabulary. So because is a good example, but you also have words like as and since, which are all basically the same meaning, very similar in meaning, and exactly the same in function. They're conjunctions, okay? And for any of you who have been with me before in previous classes, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about complex sentences. And these conjunctions, we will use them in complex sentences, okay? I see something, a question from Mohammed about fanboys. Maybe, I don't know if we can clarify that. In this case, there are different types of conjunctions. Fanboys is one type of conjunction. These are what we call subordinating conjunctions. Don't worry too much about the terminology. As long as you know how to use these words, you'll be fine. So let me show you an example. Talking about cause and effect, okay? Because many customers complained, the company changed its policy. This is a very common way of expressing the cause and effect relationship between one idea and the other, okay? But of course, as I've taught you before, you have choices, right? In this case, I'll just move my head out of the way a little bit there. You can flip it and say the company changed its policy because many customers complained. Now, we've talked about this before in previous classes, that you can take these two clauses and invert them and the meaning is the same, right? The key for this lesson is really looking at the words that we're using to express that cause. So one thing to keep in mind, which we've talked about before, is you've got because at the beginning of the sentence. Make sure you've got that comma after that introductory clause, okay? So you start with because, you have to get that comma there. If you don't, in the second sentence, if you've got because in the second clause, not at the beginning of the sentence, then you'll notice that you have no comma here. So don't worry about that, okay? So this is, again, a very common use of because that I'm sure you guys are familiar with. I want to go beyond that today. Hopefully, teach you something new, okay? So other ways of expressing cause. Some of these words are going to look familiar, but the way we use them might be a little bit different. So not just because, but because of, as a result of, and due to, okay? These three expressions, three phrases that we use to express cause really have a very similar meaning to the other three conjunctions that I just showed you, but the grammatical function, the way we use it in the sentence, is different. And that's what I want to highlight for you guys right now, okay? Now I see somebody put up maybe however in the chat, Jamal. That, however, is an adverb, and we'll talk more about however another time, but that's not quite cause and effect relationship, but we'll come back to that. Okay, so let's get back into this. Let me show you an example. Because, oh yes, before we do it though, I should mention, because these phrases that I just showed you contain prepositions like of or to, they can only be followed by nouns or phrases, not clauses. Again, I'll clarify that in a moment. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, let's look at an example. Because of customer complaints, the company changed its policy. So you'll see it's the exact same idea that I showed you before, but the structure of the sentence is a little bit different, okay? But like the other one, you have options. You can flip that phrase and clause order around in the sentence, and the meaning stays the same. So the company changed its policy because of customer complaints. Okay, so what have I changed in this sentence? Well, before we get to that, again, just remember if you're using because at the beginning to get that comma, all right? But if you've got because in the sentence, then the comma is not necessary. But let's break down the difference between the first type of sentence I showed you and the second. And then in a couple minutes, I'm going to get you guys to dive right into the work, okay? So my first example was this. Because customers complained, the company changed its policy. Okay, and the second one, because of customer complaints, the company changed its policy. Again, the same meaning, but if you look closely, you'll notice that if I'm using because, I have to use afterwards a subject and a verb. So because is used with a clause, okay, in order to be complete. In the second example, it's different. You've got because of, and then a noun, no verb. So if you're using that of there, then you cannot use a verb afterwards, just a noun or a phrase. Now in this case, customer complaints, that's what we call a compound noun, like a soccer game, for example, okay? So that's the key difference. So let's give you one more example of a mistake that you want to try to avoid, just to really drive this home for you guys, okay? Avoid this mistake, and this is a very common mistake that I see my students make in their writing with the word, the phrase due to. Okay, so the flight delays were due to the snow was heavy. Wow, that's even hard for me to read because it's a mistake. The flight delays were due to the snow was heavy. In this case, this is a mistake because due to is a preposition. Okay, it's a prepositional phrase, and it cannot be followed by a subject and a verb. That's a mistake. You can't do it. If you wanted to put because there instead, that would be better. Or, alternatively, you could take that clause away and you can turn it into a noun and say, the flight delays were due to the heavy snow. And now you've got a complete grammatically correct sentence. Now that's the key difference between because and because of, or since or as a result of, okay? Owing to and due to is a question coming in from Mohammed. That's a good question. How about I'll save that for when you guys are doing your exercise in a bit. That's a really good question. It's kind of maybe a little bit complicated, but I'll come back to it. Okay, good question, Mohammed. Thanks for that. So before we get into more questions, let me show you a little bit about effect. We've talked about cause. Now we'll take a quick minute to talk about words that we use to introduce the result or the effect. And these words, again, I'm sure you guys are familiar with, are words like therefore, as a result, and consequently. Now these are adverbs, and they're going to kind of function as the bridge between the two ideas. Okay, you're going to have two independent clauses with one of these words right in the middle. Now, a couple weeks ago, we talked about how to construct sentences with this type of adverb in there, and let me show you an example. Okay, many customers complained. Again, it's the same idea that we've been looking at. Very unhappy customers, and a company that is willing to change. Good for them. So, many customers complained. You've got your adverb there. As a result, the company changed its policy. So you've got the reason first, complained, and then you've got the effect afterwards with that conjunctive adverb in the middle. Now again, remember, because we talked about this a couple weeks ago, if you've got as a result in there, you need the semicolon, and then you need the comma there. Okay? And that's really all you need to know about the effect. Now, rather than me just sit here talking all day, because I did do that on Monday, I'm going to get you guys to jump into some work, okay? I want to do some practice connecting ideas using these linking devices to show cause and effect, okay? So if Lane, our friendly moderator, can put that link up to the document, and we'll get into some practice here, okay? So let me go in here and open this up so everybody can see it. And again, if you have questions as we're going through, put them in the chat, and I'll try to answer them as best I can, okay? Let me make this a little bit bigger so everybody can see it on the screen, so it can all be on the screen at the same time. This is perfect right here, okay? I have put together 6 pairs of sentences, and with each pair, you've got 2 sentences, and then you've got either a conjunction or an adverb or something there, preposition, some kind of linking device. What you have to do for me is take both of these clauses and connect them and make one sentence using the linking word that I've provided for you. Okay, now the first thing you have to do, you have to look at the sentences and decide what is the cause and what is the effect, because that's going to that'll affect the order of your sentence and the structure and how you use the word that I've given you. Okay, so it's really important to recognize which is the reason and which is the result before you get into putting the sentence together. So the first one, let's do the first one together. Okay, life expectancy has increased significantly. Means people are living longer. That's life expectancy. Lucky us, right? And the age of retirement has been changed to 67, which is kind of a drag, I guess. It means you have to work longer, or maybe that's a good thing, I guess. So you have to decide what is the cause, what is the effect, and put them together using the word because. Now I'm going to do it really quickly here to show you how I would do it. Do something like this. Because life expectancy has increased significantly, I'm going to turn this into a comma. And I'm going to take this and change it, get rid of that, clean it up. And there we go. Because life expectancy has increased significantly, comma, the age of retirement has been changed to 67. Okay, so that's all you have to do. For the other 5 sentences, combine them, use the word I've given you, make sure that the order and the structure is correct. You might have to change bits of the sentence around. It might not be as easy as just changing the order. You may have to take a verb and turn it into a noun or something like that. But of course, I am here to help you, okay? So I am going to pop off the screen so you can see it. I'll put our happy working music on there. And just remember, if anybody's unfamiliar with it, if you open up the document, if you want to make a copy, you can do it here. If you click Make a Copy, then you can write your answers on the document, okay? But what I really want is for you guys to take your answers as well and put them into the chat so we can see them, so that I can throw them up here and tell you how smart you are, okay? So I'm going to pop out, I'm going to turn my mic off, and I'm going to put on some happy music, and I want you guys to work on it, okay? All right, I'm out of here. All right, good stuff, guys. You work fast. Got lots of answers coming in. Let's go over some of this stuff together. So I'll put it up here on the screen. I'm gonna bring some of your answers over. This one I noticed came in from. I think this one came in from Selma. I saw a lot of people put in the answer for B. I put this one up here because it's almost perfect. Okay, the news media often focuses on crime and violence. Consequently, people mistakenly believe the crime rate has gone up. You've got the cause and effect relationship there is perfect. I would say the one thing that's missing, and I would say that who's kind of new in here? Alvius. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. Alvius has the correct punctuation here. Just to fix this one up, you would put a semicolon there and a comma there to make it a complete compound sentence. All right, and then you've got a great sentence there. Good. Okay. For C, let's look at C. Who's got C? I saw C in here somewhere. All right. Okay, Selma, I see you've got C over here. Let me put that up in here. So let's take a look at this. Oops. All right, let's try that again. Okay. Ooh, all bolded. That's all right. There. Okay, so people expect a shortage of workers in the future because of lower birth rate in the country. That's pretty good. I would say because, one thing that I would change here, Selma, this is yours, the word rate is a singular countable noun. It's something that you can count. So when it's singular like that, you're going to need some kind of article with it. And I would say here, maybe the or a lower birth rate in the country would make it better. Okay, if any of you, rather than lower, just put low, that's fine too. But as long as you've got the low birth rate in the country, this is correct here because she's got no verb or anything, just because of, and then a noun and a phrase, and that's perfect. Good job. All right. What about D? Who I've got for D? All right, John, I'll go to you. John's got the answer. Let me put it up here. And he says that. All right. Due to real estate prices continuing to climb, there is a high demand for housing. That's kind of a tricky one. Due to real estate prices continuing to climb. That one's a little bit awkward because of the use of that participle there. I would say, oh yes, okay. So here's the bigger issue with this, John, now that I'm looking at it, is that you've got the cause and effect relationship backwards. Okay, now if you look at the first sentences that I gave you up here, if you look at which is the reason and which is the result. So I think high demand for housing here, that means that many people want a house, many people want a home. So I think that's your reason, and your result is the prices continue to go up, right? So because lots of people want a house, the prices go up. So rather than this, I would take all of this out of here, okay? And say, due to a high demand for housing, real estate prices continue to climb. And take all of that out of there. All right, so due to a high demand for housing, real estate prices continue to climb, and now you've got a grammatical sentence there. That's great. Okay, 2 more, and then we're going to get into some more stuff here. So he's from Istanbul. He was very familiar with the area. Who's got one? Oscar Diaz. All right, welcome, Oscar. I'm not sure is this your first time in here, Oscar? Maybe it is. If so, welcome. If not, welcome back. All right, so as he is from Istanbul, he was pretty familiar with the area. Perfect, just make sure that you capitalize that as, right, at the beginning of the sentence. Also, you want to capitalize Istanbul because it's the city. and put that period there, just like so. And if anybody flipped it around and said he was familiar with the area as he was from Istanbul, that's okay too. I think this Oscar's answer is perfect though. And I'm seeing in the chat that Ian Duval has the same answer there. Is that Marianne? All right. Welcome. All right. F, the last one here, says some traditional celebrations are in danger of disappearing. Many Western holidays have been adopted in other countries. So who's got an answer for F for me here? Let me take a look. I saw some answers for F coming in. Yuri's, okay. Let me put Yuri's answer up for all to see. Oh, and it's blue for some reason. It's special. Okay. So what does he got here? Many Western holidays have been adopted in other countries. As a result, some traditional celebrations are in danger of disappearing. Put that period there. And that is perfect. Now, I tried to trick him. I couldn't trick Yuri. Obviously, what he did is he flipped the order of the sentences because the first clause he has there, many Western holidays, is the cause, and then the disappearing tradition is the result. So that is perfect. Awesome. Okay, good job, guys. This is what we're going to do now. Let's get back into my presentation here. All right, we're going to switch things up a little bit. Now, this is good. Let me turn this on down here. And again, if you guys have questions about that stuff, I will try to answer them. There we go. And remind me about owing to and due to in a bit. I'll try to get back to that one for Mohammed. So again, the whole point of this was to show cause and effect with the linking words, right? But I also today wanted to spend a little bit of time on vocabulary, okay? Not just on the structure of a sentence, but giving you particular specific words to use in the theme of cause and effect, because we're talking about cause and effect here today, okay? So I want to teach you 3 verbs today that we use to express cause and effect, okay? And then you guys can see if you can use them, okay? 3 words to keep it relatively simple, all right? Trigger, stem from, and lead to, all right? Now, all of those linking words that we used before, like because and therefore and so on, are really useful, but sometimes to show a cause-effect relationship, really you just need a verb. And you guys probably know verbs like make, cause, influence, impact, and this kind of thing. But I want to show you I want to expand your vocabulary. Of course, I'm always saying you got to show your range and expand, have a variety of words, okay? So trigger, stem, from, and lead to. Let's talk about these in today's vocabulary focus, all right? So, wow, okay, it's a gun. Don't worry about it. Trigger is the word that we're talking about. Now, as a noun, the trigger is this part of the gun right here. This is the thing that you would pull to shoot the gun or to make it go off, okay? So, as a verb, the word trigger means to start or to initiate something. So it means to cause it. But usually we use trigger normally to something negative, okay? Not always, but you can trigger a headache, you can trigger a reaction, an allergic reaction, but you can also trigger memories or something like that as well. So trigger, as I just said, certain foods and smells can trigger headaches, okay? So think about strong perfume sometimes, or certain foods that people will eat will cause a headache. So I'm getting a question in here from Jamal. I think it says, what does trigger mean? So yeah, this is what we're focusing on here. Trigger means cause, all right? But it means to make something start. And again, as I said, it's usually more often than not a negative thing, like trigger a reaction, as I said, or trigger a headache, or trigger a seizure or something like that. But sometimes it can be something a little bit more pleasant as well. And I'll give you an example of that soon. So, trigger is cause. All right, the next one. Oh, that's nice. That's relaxing, peaceful. Stem from is the word, okay? Again, it means to cause, but it means, in this case, stem from means caused by or to come from. If you look at this picture here of my stem, I've got the flower here, and this is your stem here, right? This part of the flower is obviously where the flower comes from. It's attached to the ground. So if you say the flower stems from the ground, that's quite literal. But we use this whenever we talk about the origin of something, where a problem comes from, or where something good comes from. Okay, so for example, I'll show you another example here. Success, because that's what our theme for the day, success stems from determination and hard work. All right. Oscar's example sentence here, hunger can trigger misfortune. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I guess so. Hunger can trigger misfortune. It can make you make a mistake or something like that. Thanks, Oscar, for that. That's pretty good. And in this case, success stems from determination and hard work, or maybe luck. Maybe it's pure blind luck. I don't know. It's you guys can decide that for yourself. Okay. And one more verb that we're talking about today is lead to. Okay, so you've got this nice, peaceful country road here. Where does this road lead to physically, right? Some kind of house at the end of the road, perhaps. And that we use to talk about the result. Okay, so lead to means to result in. What's at the end of a situation? What is the result? So for example, it has been proven that stress leads to physical illness, right? So if you're too stressed out, you actually might get sick, so relax, right? Don't work so hard, yeah? Okay, so these three verbs, trigger, stem from, lead to, really good ways of expressing the cause and effect relationship. So how about this? I'm gonna put a couple questions up here, and I want you guys to give me some feedback in the chat, okay? So in the chat, 3 questions for you guys to discuss. What types of things can trigger a memory? So what types of things can make a memory pop into your head really quickly? Okay. Number 2, where does fear stem from? So if you're afraid of something, if you're afraid of spiders, for example, or flying, where does that fear come from? And 3, what type of lifestyle can lead to happiness? Please let me know. All right, give me some advice. So, again, Oscar's saying here, stress leads to a mountain of problems. That's an excellent example. Now, again, I'm going to pop out of the screen. I'll put the music on for a couple minutes, and I want some feedback here. What things can trigger a memory? Where does fear stem from? And what type of lifestyle can lead to happiness? All right, talk to your friends in the chat, and then we're going to discuss it together. Okay, I'll be back in a minute, but I'm going to pop out. All right, everybody. Good stuff. Lots of answers coming in the chat. Amazing. Some of you guys, yeah. So coming from Emmy saying a song can trigger a memory. I agree with that. Absolutely. Certain songs, you hear it and you're immediately back at a very specific place and time, or you hear a song and you think of a person. Somebody in there, who said a face? Let me see there. Jamel, yeah, seeing a familiar face, absolutely. You see a face, and it triggers a memory. Smell, Selma, I agree with that for sure. Smells can trigger memories, can remind you of a person or a place. What was the next one? Fear, yes. Some good answers coming in. Again, Jamal, fear stems from the unknown. Good stuff. I think, Mohammed, you said fear stems from ignorance. I'm going to have to say Yuri gets the answer of the day, okay? For you, this is the best answer I've seen today is fear stems from neutral stimuli in the amygdala and hippocampus. Good for you. Yeah. And for happiness, what kind of lifestyle can lead to happiness? Again, lots of inspiring stuff coming in here. This is good. Rasha thinks love can lead to happiness. Good. I think, John, was it somebody said appreciation, maybe? To be, an appreciative lifestyle can lead to happiness in life. Some deep stuff here. You guys are deep. All right. This is good. So again, with all vocabulary, if these words are new to you, or if you're not used to using them very much, just try to incorporate them into your regular everyday use of the language, and you'll become more comfortable with them, and you'll find different ways to use them. And of course, don't be afraid to make a mistake with a vocabulary word. Shoot for it, go for it, fall on your face, and make a mistake. And that's great. And that is an excellent way, I think, to introduce what I'm going to call the mistake of the week. All right? Mistake of the week. Let's talk about a common mistake. All right? Don't do that, by the way. That's a terrible idea. I'm going to put a sentence up here on the screen, okay? And I want you, again, take 10 seconds, 15 seconds, read this sentence over. Today I want to look at a very specific mistake that students make a lot in their writing, okay? So look at this sentence and try to spot the mistake. All right, let me put it up here. Students have difficulty completing their assignment because they did not fully understand the instructions. Looks pretty good to me. Take a minute, not even, take 20 seconds, read this sentence, find me the mistake. Whoever finds the mistake first is my favorite student. Not to play favoritism or anything, but music's coming back on. I'm going to disappear for 20 seconds, and then I'll be back. Find me the mistake. All right, so we're going to turn this into a regular thing. Every week I'm going to fire out a common mistake that students make. And this mistake, and I saw a bunch of people put it into the chat, which is great. You guys are super fast. You're keen. You're on the ball. That's awesome. This is a mistake not just of speakers of English as a second language. This is a mistake that native speakers make, and even I occasionally make this mistake if I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing, if I'm writing an email too quickly. And a bunch of people caught it there. I think Jamal got it. I think Yuri, I think, was the first one to catch it. And of course, the problem here is in this sentence there is a mistake, right? And of course, it should not be T-H-E-R-E, but it should be T-H-E-I-R, right? Not there, but there. Again, a very simple mistake, but one that will drive your teachers crazy if you put it in there, because it shows kind of what we call sloppy proofreading, right? It's kind of a simple mistake that you should be able to catch, but obviously everybody makes mistakes every once in a while. So let's take a look real quickly, just to clarify. Again, we're going simple on the mistakes this week. Next week I'll throw something harder at you guys because you're too smart for me. All right. So there, and there. You got to know the difference between these three words. But as I said, a lot of native speakers make this mistake now and again too. So there, obviously, is the adverb there, or the expletive, meaning, well, in this case, it has no meaning. There are many reasons to study abroad. It's just kind of an introductory word. Or, in this case, the line to get into the concert starts back there. So there, T-H-E-R-E, is the opposite of here, obviously. So make sure your spelling is correct there, all right? Next one, T-H-E-I-R, there, is, of course, the possessive, which most of you guys caught as a mistake, right? So if you're talking about ownership of something, whether it's physical or abstract, you use there, right? So due to their indecision, they missed the chance, okay? And the last one, there, this one, again, you have to be careful of. They, apostrophe R-E, is a contraction. It's a shortened form, of course, of they are, okay? So example here, they're late for the staff meeting. They are late for the staff meeting, okay? So just make sure you're paying attention to those little mistakes that will make all the difference. You don't want to annoy your teachers, all right? That's my advice for you. So put them all together, and what do you got is they're going to have to change their reservations when they get there, right? Because that's not confusing at all, right? Okay, so I thought what I would do now, because I do have a little bit of extra time here, I see, which is great, is that I thought we would go back for a moment and answer that question from Muhammad. The difference between owing to and due to. And it's kind of, I would say owing to and due to are nowadays basically used the same way. But some people would argue that they have a little bit of a difference in grammar, right, in the function. Let me make this nice and big so everybody will be able to see it, okay? Do I have another question coming in? I heard a ding. Oh yeah, so yes, of course I should mention that. In this case, Jamal is asking, what is the pronunciation between there and there? And that's important to know, that it's exactly the same. There, there, there. If you're just listening to a person speaking, the word itself, there is absolutely no difference in the sound, okay? So you can't rely on the sound itself to tell the difference. You have to rely on the context of how they use it. So if someone says, for example, let's go over there, you can't tell by the sound of the word what the difference is, but you know by the sentence that they mean the place, not here, but there. Good question, Jamal. Okay, so I was going to say, Mohammed, I think, asked the question about owing to and due to. Okay, now, traditionally, there is a difference between these words. Nowadays, in common usage, they're basically used as the same thing, okay? So owing to and due to. If I say, for example, I'll put two sentences up here. We'll talk about traffic. Traffic was heavy. Traffic was heavy. Now, actually, how about this? Traffic was bad. We'll keep it simple. Traffic was bad. There was a car accident on the highway. Don't worry, everybody's fine. You had a little fender bender, okay? Mohammed, yeah, homophones is talking about there. Just to go back to that, yes, that's a homophone. So traffic was bad. There was a car accident on the highway. Why was traffic bad? Because of this car accident, okay? So I would say this, owing to, you can bring this down here and put a sentence together like this. There was a car accident, whoops, no, sorry. My mistake. Traffic was bad. Here, let me go back here. I'm getting ahead of myself here, guys, just a sec. Okay. Traffic was bad. I would say owing to, take that out of there, a car accident on the highway. All right, so in this case, I guess I should say owing to and due to are basically the same thing. You have to make sure that afterwards, both of them, due to, that you have no verb there, right? That it's actually just, as I said, a phrase. Now, I guess I said they were a little bit different. I was thinking about because of. Now, I should say that owing to and due to are the same. Because of is a little bit different, okay? In this case, if you put because of a car accident on the highway. This is fine, but the difference between because of and due to, or owing to and due to, is that due to can function as what we call as an adjective. Okay, so I can take traffic was bad, okay, and turn it into a noun. And look what I'm going to do here. I'm going to say the bad traffic was due to. The bad traffic was due to a car accident on the highway. Okay, so in this case, I'm using due to as an adjective with just the noun, subject, verb, and then this here. You can't really, it's not very common to use because of or owing to like this, right? You say the bad traffic was because of a car accident. It's not as common. But that's kind of a difference between kind of traditional rules and what we call common usage. Nowadays, due to, because of, owing to, we typically use them as synonyms, okay? Diego threw out an idea here. He says, owing to really bad traffic. Exactly, right. So you're a step ahead of me here. Diego, that was great. So in this case, due to, owing to, because of, basically the same, but with due to, you do have this other way of doing it, to treat it like an adjective rather than an adverb, okay? So, Mohammed, hopefully that answers your question, all right? Good questions. And this is one more thing I'm going to get you guys to do before you run away for the day, all right? I'm going to go back into my slides. Here. Oh, actually, let's go down here. Leave you something to discuss before you go today. Okay. So how about this? This is our quote of the day on the topic of cause and effect. Something to think about. Something to analyze here. Here's the quote of the day. Is shallow people believe in luck, strong people believe in cause and effect. Okay, so what does that quote mean? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? How do you feel about this quote? What we're going to do is, for the last 8 minutes or so, you guys can think about this quote, discuss it in the chat, and I will also be in the chat to answer any more questions that you guys have about anything that we've done here today, about due to or because of or anything like that. And then we'll pick it up at this time next week. All right. So thanks for coming. It's always a pleasure to see you guys, people old and new, coming in for a lesson. Again, I'm going to stick around in the chat. I'm going to be Smrt English in this chat. That's me, just so you guys know. You can discuss the meaning of this quote, or you can ask me questions about anything that we've talked about today, and I'll field it. I'll put on some music for a while, and we'll keep this quote up on the screen so you guys can discuss it, and then we'll pick it up here next week. Oh yeah. So actually, before we go in, Muhammad is asking a good question. He's saying, what does shallow mean? That's a good question. Shallow means, well, shallow is the opposite of deep. So a deep person would mean someone who thinks deeply about something. A shallow person is superficial, someone who does not put a lot of thought into something. I mean, in this case, you might be able to say like a weak-minded person believes in luck. Okay? So discuss this in the chat. And I'm going to be in there answering your questions, okay? Maybe I'll put on some happy music, but I'm going to pop off the screen here, okay?